We are all, well, the two old people here are a little under the weather, so bear with us this week. Portal will be sick next week, so we'll figure it out.
Don't put that juju on him, man. That's fucked up.
1 week later.
All right. Well, in my defense, when I said that, I didn't think I was going to be accurate. I'm wrong in almost every other case of my life. If he's going to be that sick, I must be a wizard.
Yeah, you're a fucking jerk off is what you are. Told you not to wish that fucking juju on him, man, and you did it anyway. And now look where we are.
Careful. I'll make you next.
I was already there, goddammit. Don't do that to me again. Fuck you, you bastard.
Welcome, everybody. It's that time of the week again for the greatest podcast you've never heard of, Cream of the Crop podcast. I am joined, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, because I always love being joined by Olas. We are down a guy this week. As you can tell, it is just the two old guys this week. I unfortunately, through my mystical powers, caused Porto KJ to come down with an illness. He's down with the sickness, if you will. But after the two of us being sick last week, I may have made a comment that he was this week, and I guess I should buy a lottery ticket tomorrow because I was right on the money.
Fucking douchebag.
Out of any time in my life that I'm right about something, it would be that. Like any other time. Yeah, like yeah. But hopefully he's feeling better and he makes a speedy recovery. The plan
we miss you.
Yeah, we miss you. It's just been us jerking each other off for the last hour.
It's not as DEI without you.
Yeah, we're missing our representation. It's really white right now, and it's just not. We're gonna lose viewers because of it, probably.
I thought we couldn't go back.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I hope you feel better, Ed, and hopefully we'll have him in here next week. Next week is still kind of up in the schedule. I do believe Olas will be busy.
I will not be here next week for sure. Hopefully, I'm hoping that you guys can still record next week, and I will be there in spirit, but I will not be there in person because I will be working a hellacious weekend schedule for Memorial Day.
Oof.
I work in sales, and I am working super extended hours plus an extended, like I'm working an extra day, which is not my favorite. So even if I tried to record with you guys next week, I would be a fucking zombie. So
no, I understand it. Just means if it ends up being me and him, it'll just be a 2-hour podcast of us bitching about comic book shit and how Marvel's the devil. Or Disney. It's not Marvel's fault. It's Disney.
Yeah. They ruined Star Wars. They ruined Marvel. They ruined.
It's all the wokeness.
Things,
wokeness. That's the theme of the podcast. Wokeness has killed the gaming and nerd industry. But we're gonna jump in as always. I like to start every podcast with a little This Week in Geek. First one's near and dear to my heart as the Call of Duty guy of the crew. So it looks like, and oddly enough, this is the most confirmed thing I've seen on Gamer Rant in a month. It is looking like Call of Duty is gonna be dropping its newest game on Game Pass day one, but there's a catch because it's Call of Duty. It looks to be going to be a change in the pricing, which I think we touched on a week or two ago, that Microsoft was looking at raising Game Pass prices, but it almost looks like the way they're phrasing, and this is the part that's speculation because there's not really a confirmation on how they're going to do this or what the price points are going to be. But it's almost seeming like there's going to be a specific tier list for Call of Duty and or I guess anything else that's I don't know how much more tier list we can do with Game Pass. Because right now there's two. There's Ultimate and then there's just the regular Game Pass. And I think Ultimate gets you the online, it gets you access on both Xbox and PC, where the Game Pass regular one just gets you Game Pass on I guess one or the other, I assume. I'm
pretty sure it's just
Or is it
well,
just
I guess you could specify. I haven't. I don't know because I. So I'll be fair. I'm pretty ignorant with that because I haven't had my Xbox up and running in years.
yeah.
And I just never thought to do Game Pass on the PC. So I don't actually know if you can pick and choose for the standard.
I don't know. So
Um,
I do the
that
ultimate
would be
because I do
because you have both.
yeah, I have both, and so I use
Which makes
online.
sense. So
And so I was like, oh, well, you know, as opposed to me paying, I'm already paying $10 for the extra, like I think it was 5 or 6. I get online, plus I can use it on the PC. That just seemed worth it. I get that there's gonna be price increases. It's inflation. You know, you're seeing it with the streaming services now, and although I don't mind the streaming service prices increasing. I understand that that's a normal thing. What I don't like is the password sharing going away. You have now
right. So
all
they're
the
not
different,
improving things for the price change.
yeah,
They're making it worse. And it's like, fuck, dude.
Especially when you had Netflix, who literally sold this platform on, hey, you can share this with everybody, and like, you know, it's like, oh, just kidding, never mind, because we're not making money because we
What
keep
was
putting
it?
shit out.
Tweets that aged poorly, and it was like, love is sharing your password.
Yeah. But
From the Netflix account, and then it was like, by the way, if you're sharing your stuff, like, come on.
Here's the
man.
killer is, so I obviously have Netflix. I have it here. You know, kiddo watches stuff on it. There's just enough on it that I still need to keep it, kind of thing. And I used to watch it on my TV at work. In my office, I have a TV with an Amazon Fire Stick on it for my paperwork days. It won't let me watch it at work because and this is me, not somebody else, not me, you know, like somebody else trying to log in. It will not let me watch it at work because it's different than the internet my primary's on.
Yeah.
I have to buy a separate account for like $8.
So my father-in-law lives on the other side of that wall
Okay.
with different internet.
Yeah.
And they gave him a hard time and it was just a profile.
Yeah.
Like I get, you know, we have the whatever account to where it's like, oh, you can have up to
Like
however
3 or 4
many
devices.
profiles.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so because like I have it on my phone and it doesn't give me a hard time, so I don't know how many devices it.
So the
allows.
phone and computer do not count. You can watch them
Oh,
anywhere.
okay, cool.
Yeah, it is mainly mainline
Sticks and
device.
TVs.
Yeah, like Fire Stick, smart TVs,
Roku's TVs. Yeah.
And that's because that's what I look. They said, well, you could just watch it on your phone because I'm that kind of person that I called customer service. I was pissed. Okay, it was, you know, you sit there. I was in the middle of watching the SWAT TV show, and I was like 3 seasons in, and I wanted to finish it.
That's fair.
But yeah, so it's kind of expected the Game Pass was going to increase. I know they increased about a year ago, so if they're going on a yearly basis, which is kind of expected.
I thought they were dying out. Oh.
Sorry.
I forget that I can interrupt stream, but not
I mean, you can. It just requires me to edit later.
Oh.
It's just rude. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you're just an asshole. You do it, I guess.
Yeah. Fucking dick, bro. What's the matter with you?
Gotta love her. But yeah, so it's expected. I hate that. I don't want the reason it's increasing because Call of Duty is going to be on it because that's not worth it to me.
Well, and that's the problem.
Because you've had,
but
flops.
I thought they were dying out. Like I thought they were thinking about doing away with it. Isn't that? I felt like I heard something about.
So
that.
I
didn't look too far into it.
I had seen that initially. I think with I guess the full purchase of Activision and them actually getting all that stuff, now they have a wider catalog of stuff they can make their own.
Right.
And the thing is, like, this could be a successful platform if you put the effort into the games that you use it for. But the thing is, Halo Infinite kind of flopped when it came out, you know, between all the stuff that was wrong. It's a lot better now. It wasn't ready to come out. You know.
Yeah, and then I mean we could say that about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Though. I mean, how many things have fallen under that category?
Oh, you gotta think
like,
Redfall flopped. You had, I think Hi-Fi Rush has been one of their only big ones that kind of actually took off, and then they closed the fucking studio down, which is an odd choice.
Yep.
I mean, even you're seeing Bethesda where they're clearing house in Bethesda because, which is weird because it seems like Bethesda's gotten more successful with the TV show, and now they're going to start clearing all these people out when really now would be the time to start diving into part of it. Bethesda takes too damn long to release game. It's that window. I don't want it every year, but it shouldn't take me 8 years to get a sequel.
Well, I mean, so if we're talking like Elder Scrolls, for
Yeah.
example, unless you're I mean, if you count Elder Scrolls Online, but even then, and I mean, don't get me wrong, they've pumped a lot of like DLC and different things like extra content into it, but I mean, Skyrim came out in November of 2011. We're now in May of 2024. There hasn't been another mainline Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah.
So Elder Scrolls 6 hasn't come out. I mean, Oblivion came out in 05, 06 maybe?
I think 06.
So that's a 5-year gap. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of enhancement things, you can't run on the same engine from 2011. I mean, knowing Bethesda, they will, but they can't run on this. Yeah, you shouldn't be like there should be graphical, increases. There should be different different things. So like I get, things take time. Hopefully not Starfield time because of how that panned out.
Yeah, that's one of those that it took so long that you would have thought this has to be great. Like the amount of time, and it's there's nothing.
I think the game itself, other than obviously it's a Bethesda game, it's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the Bethesda, company line. Not really, but that's their official line. Had it not been like we've been working on this game for 16 years or however long it was. I don't remember how long it was, but it was like we've been working on this game for so long, and they hyped it up, and it was kind of a dud. I think if it just came out, it probably would have been much better received had it not been this like, oh, we've been working, like this is our baby, this is our thing, and like it sucks. Because you don't want things to fail. You don't want companies to shut down. You don't want people to lose their jobs unless they deserve it.
Yeah.
And not in the way that like, oh, he said a mean thing 15 years ago on Twitter when he was 12. Like, he deserves to get fired.
Man, we're pissing everybody off tonight. Just going
I don't give
for
a
it.
fuck. Fuck you if you have a problem.
Just going for it. I love it.
But well, because like, so in the same vein, I haven't seen it confirmed. I'm not a journalist, but I haven't seen anything like
we're about the equivalent of a Gamer Rant journalist.
I'm a game. Well, I can work for Gamer Rant and just fucking say my opinion and speculate. Or I could be a wrestling person and just say like this thing happened, that never happened, and then go, oh yeah, we found alternate reports. That's
a lot of heat going on,
Well, we'll get to that later, but I saw something about like Square Enix even having some issues.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with the way things come out is everybody wants to get the story out first and worry about facts later. So I saw something along the lines of like Square Enix is failing miserably and their sales are not blah, 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 blah. And it's, are their sales lower than projected? Yes. There's a multitude of reasons for that. So like Final Fantasy 16 and 7 Rebirth were the two focuses for that thing. The problem you run into with that is both are PS5 exclusives. So
you're already taking out half the player base.
Right. Not only that, but like they're also not PS4 eligible. So a lot of people still haven't gotten their hands on PS5s. Right? They've sold more than the Series X and Series S has.
Have they? But I wasn't sure.
But they're not to the level of like PS4 sales.
Yeah.
Even though there are no longer, shipping issues and inventory issues like there was, COVID time and all that stuff. You can you can go into a store and buy a PS5 at this point. But people just still don't have their hands on it. The economy is obviously in the shape that it's been in. Everything's going up, so that, buying a game system is not ideal. So yeah, I mean, your projections are like sales are a little lower than the projected like hope that they were going for, but they're not like tanking and going out of business. Now, there was talks about them trying to kind of do away with the console exclusives so that they can reach the wider audience.
Yeah.
They can go to PC. I guess I've been seeing stuff with because a couple of games have had like longer exclusivity than others. Like Ghost of Tsushima is just now coming to PC.
Yeah, which I thought was
Um,
odd.
Spider-Man,
Who knows?
the first one is out. The second one, I don't know what the time frame for that is. Final Fantasy VII remake, the first version that came out in 2020, I think. Yeah, 2020. It has been on um, PC for a while, a couple
Yeah.
years now. So we don't know what the time frame. So like, you know, hopefully we're not getting to a point where everybody's like clearing house, because I did see that they were going to start clearing house at Square Enix, which I hope is not the case, because I enjoy the stuff that they're putting out. I know that you're not really into those games.
No,
Not that
and
you have a problem with them,
yeah,
but
I
like,
mean,
it's just
it's
stuff you haven't played.
it's
and-
one that's not a genre that I've dove into, but I do totally get the hype around it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always thought it was an interesting concept. It's just my ADD brain. It's tough for me to do that kind of turn based, without. That's like the Baldur's Gate is easier for me with people, because it's like, okay, yeah, it's turn based, but I'm interacting with people, and makes
they
it go a
have
little quicker.
they have gotten away from the turn-based aspect
Have
of
they?
it for like a lot
See,
of it.
and
So
it shows how much I know about it. Is,
Yeah.
I still
You
have in
might-
my head that it's all still kind of turn based. You all stand in a line.
Oh,
and
yeah. You might actually enjoy some of the newer games, depending.
Because
I will say
did
this.
they do Kingdom Heart? Did Square Enix? Is that
Yes.
I was saying I love
Yeah.
Kingdom Heart. So it's not that
Yeah,
I have any
so-
issue with what they do. I think they put out good stuff. It's just
Oh, yeah.
Final Fantasy's never one that I dove into.
Which is funny that you like Kingdom Hearts, because it's like Final Fantasy
Yeah.
/ Disney. Because it has Final Fantasy characters, and
Yeah.
it has, like half of those characters are that, obviously the non-Disney ones, but your Sephiroth, your Cloud, your
Yeah.
Leon, your, whoever. But the if we're talking about like the Game Pass and Call of Duty and the premium and the this, and obviously we're seeing all the Ubisoft stuff with pricing and Ultimate and this edition, and what
Gold
we talk about
Deluxe.
with that with Outlaws.
Yeah, Star Wars Outlaws.
And then we just saw that with our newest thing that they just had the trailer for, which was universally loved, I'm sure.
Some universe.
Nice little segue we went into
Yeah.
that. So for everybody who's been under a rock for the last week, Ubisoft announced the new Assassin's Creed game, which is finally based in Japan. The everybody losing their shit about it is because the main protagonist, there's two, by the way.
Yeah.
The main protagonist is not Japanese, except for the other one. But it's based off of an actual historical figure. Now, to the extent of his involvement in the actual story has been debated.
It's a trailer, guys. Like,
well, so from what I understand too, though, you can play as both characters.
Yeah.
Which is two different play styles. So they have the samurai and the ninja. So you can do the more stealth, or you can do the more like heavy hitting.
Like Valhalla, Odyssey kind of.
From what I understand, more like Syndicate. If you remember, it had the two,
true, yeah.
the brother and sister, and
Sister.
the sister was more stealthy, and the brother was more
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to beat you
shit
up
out of
kind of
everybody.
thing. From what I understand, if I saw correctly, you can pretty much play the entire game as one character or the other, except for a couple of missions specific to each character.
Yeah.
And
that was how Syndicate was, wasn't it? Or
yeah, so for the most part, you could figure out, and then like each had their own missions for certain things, because one mission required stealth. So obviously you were going to play as Evie because she was the more stealth based, and I don't remember the brother's
I don't
name.
either. I was like, I was hoping you were gonna remember that one because I remembered he was the girl.
Yes. Hold on. Now
I
have to
inherently do
find
like
out.
this better than the Odyssey thing, where it's because I always hated that where it was we can remember that you're this person, but our technology is not good enough to remember whether or not you were a man or a woman.
Jacob Fry. There
Huh?
it is.
Like, you know.
Yeah, so that was Valhalla was like that where you could like pick the combo. So like sometimes you're a guy, sometimes you're a girl or whatever. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. I think that's going to be confusing. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I picked male Eivor for Valhalla, but I picked Cassandra for Odyssey because I think that she was just more. She was less boring. Like
Yeah.
whoever the
I had
voice actor
heard,
was
yeah,
for Alexios was kind of like
phoning it in.
dullish, and Cassandra had more life to her, and just like it just played better. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, because I the first time I ran into that with Odyssey, I googled it because I was like, does it matter? Like, does the story change? Like, that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
Does the story change if I pick one or the other? And essentially, if you pick one, like if you're not familiar, if you pick the male or female character, their roles just reverse depending on who you pick. So if you
Yeah.
pick the female character, the male character plays one role. If you pick the male character, the female plays that role instead. Like that's really all there is to it. There's nothing really crazily changed in the story, but dialogue is slightly different. And from all I had read before I started playing, without any spoilers, because I made sure I didn't want to spoil the game for myself, was that she was just the better protagonist.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. And that's the thing, like I don't care, and that's the whole thing. So the samurai is a black guy named Yasuke. And everybody's freaking out about that because it's, DEI and woke and blah 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 blah, and we're not getting a Japanese person as the protagonist, even though how'd you say it? Was it Naue?
Naue.
Naoe, right? Something like that.
Yes, it was Naoe.
She's the ninja, he's the samurai.
Also, she's also,
she's also Japanese
protagonist.
and
One of
protagonist.
two.
But of course, it's like, well, we got a Japanese person, but it's a woman, and I'm like, all right, bro. Like, I know it's supposed to be feudal Japan. Tell her to get back in the kitchen. Like, no, you fucking loser. Like,
well, that's
I
the thing is
just
they
don't-
pretend like women haven't been in the order since like at least two, because Brotherhood, there's literally women you recruit to the order as part of your crew.
right. Like, I just.
Like,
And I'm like, are we really looking at Assassin's Creed for like historical accuracies? Because last I remember,
here's a George
the
Washington
Pope-
deals.
yeah, the King Tyrant Washington or whatever the fuck it was, right?
Yeah.
Like evil King Tyrant George Washington gets corrupted by the Apple of Eden or whatever the fuck it was. But it's one of these like first civilization fucking scepters and this and
Yeah.
that. Like,
isn't the Pope the bad guy and like
In
Ezio's
two?
too?
Yeah.
it's like it's literally the Pope.
yeah, the Pope got killed by some random dude because he had in his possession this like ancient weapon of like mass fucking control. Yeah, that happened, right? So like we're so worried about the historical accuracies. I mean, thank God for Leonardo da Vinci for coming up with the airplane thing
Yeah,
and
really helped us out, man.
the hidden blade. And man, that Da Vinci, what a guy. I mean, I don't know how much him and Niccolo Machiavelli were hanging out, but apparently it was a ton back in
Yeah.
Italy.
Shit.
Like what the fuck, man? Like
But even but
I
this
like
isn't the
the
first time we've had
settings
this
for the
issue though.
games.
This is not the first time people have had this with Assassin's Creed, because I remember they took out the crossbow and won because it wasn't historically accurate to the time
Right.
period. I go, I would have played that and I'd have never fucking said that.
And
I
but
wouldn't
some
have
people
cared.
care.
I wouldn't have. I go, cool. Crossbow.
Here's
That
the
makes
other
sense.
problem though. The other problem is Yasuke is an actual
Yeah.
recorded human being. Now, what his involvement was in the wars and different things, whether he fought, whether he didn't, he was a retainer, he was recognized as like
Sword bearer.
basically a samurai without the official title.
Yeah.
he fought in the battle, he didn't fight in the battle, he did. Okay, this is first of all, this is the first time they're using an actual recorded human being as one of the protagonists. So like that's interesting in itself. And I think had they not done that, they probably could have gotten it. Well, no, if it was a
They
black
still
guy, they
would
still would
have
have bitched.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody
I
that's
think they'd have
bitching about
bitched.
it
They'd
has
have
a
bitched
little bit of
more
like,
if
yes.
it hadn't have been.
Like, I'm not saying every person that's bitching about it being a black guy has some racist undertones to it, but I am saying that there are a good amount of those people that are doing it. Also, the thing I found funny, the Ubisoft Japan page for YouTube for the trailer and everything has been like, again, what would we call that? Dislike bombed.
Oh yeah, the massive disliked. Yeah.
So, and the other thing is like, oh, see, the Japanese people are rejecting it. And I'm like, you do understand that, like, you don't have to be in Japan to have access to Ubisoft Japan's like YouTube channel, right? Because most of these people, if you translate the comments, are just using Google Translate to write it in Japanese to the Japanese Ubisoft page.
Yeah.
And some of them are even like, oh, I'm from Sweden and I feel like this is this too. And I'm like, so like half of these comments aren't even from Japan. And yes, I have seen some Japanese people go, well, it's an odd choice. Or I don't really like it. Or I would have wished for this. And yeah, okay, that's fine. You can feel that way, right? Like I'm not discrediting the people that are like, I do wish we had some representation. Well, no, that's not true. I am discrediting those people because you literally have a Japanese person as the other protagonist. The joke, I told you the joke earlier, we said it before we started recording, was Nawe is canonically basically the best stealth-based protagonist we've ever had because we have completely forgotten about her in the sense that we're only talking about the Black Samurai guy.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. You don't like it, don't buy it. Don't support it. You don't have to bitch about it all day, every day, make 15,000 posts a day because you just want your fucking engagement. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If the story's good, I don't give a fuck. I really don't.
No,
if it's fun to play,
like
I don't give a fuck. I'm into the feudal Japan thing. I'm all for it. Actually, I think I told you last week. I'm about to finish up Final Fantasy 16, so the next game on my plate will be Ghost of Tsushima. I've been dying to play it.
I keep wondering if I'm gonna sucker myself into buying the PC port.
I have avoided as many spoilers as I can with that game, despite it being out for years.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to playing it.
But see, it's the bad thing is now because you're getting a lot of the, which I am too, as far as the representation thing. The thing I'm getting is a bunch of like, who asked for this? Who actually wanted this? I go, what? Are we really shitting on them doing a feudal Japan? Like,
well,
this is just
like
diet Ghost of Tsushima. I go, okay, and not every
That's
samurai
not really
game
a bad thing, though.
is gonna be like, you can't just compare that to every single. Like, it's gonna be a little different. Like, it's not gonna be the same.
From what I understand, because I am looking forward to playing this game, I have heard nothing but fantastic things about that game.
Yeah.
So if it's diet Ghost of Tsushima, that's still a pretty fucking good game from everything I've heard about Ghost of Tsushima. Also, it does make me laugh because it's like, of all the characters they could have used, they used this guy. And I'm like, so that's not the first time he's been in a video game.
Yeah.
Like, his character as a samurai fighter he's a boss in Nayo.
Is he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he was in Samurai Warriors, I think 4, which is like if you remember Dynasty Warriors.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He was in the like Japanese version. So Dynasty Warriors was based on the Chinese like 3 kingdoms.
Yeah.
And then Samurai Warriors, I didn't play it. I think it's based on this feudal Japan, if that's the same timeline, if they have him in that game. So he's in that game. Nobody bitched. He's a boss in Nayo. Either 1 or 2, I don't remember. I didn't play them.
I haven't either, yeah.
But I've heard good things about
another
that
game
game.
I've heard good things.
But nobody bitched about that either. And like,
and I'm not one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one to sit there and defend Ubisoft in any manner.
Because if we're talking about like pricing of things, I've
It's a joke.
not happy
A
about that.
joke.
It's fucking obnoxious. So like it's not I'm not defending Ubisoft. I'm more so shitting on you morons and fucking plebs that are sitting here and going like, oh, it's your black guy, it's DEI, and you guys are wokeifying me shit and blah, 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 blah. Like, bro, go use your tears as lube to jerk off and shut the fuck up. Like nobody gives a fuck.
But even
They
I mean,
really
even the
don't.
Ubisoft
Like,
part of it, like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you hadn't have
Right.
if you hadn't have done feudal Japan, you'd have had people. We want a Japan Assassin's Creed. Why have we
we've
had to
been
wait
wanting
this
Japan
long?
for fucking years. And blah, 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 blah,
You
blah.
know, and we have like that's. I mean, I think since 4, I've gone, man. They really should do the 2 that I kept saying they needed to do was Russia and Japan, because I think you could do
Yeah.
a really cool Russia one. Because the Nikolai character in Assassin's Creed Russia is a great character, and Japan, because that makes the most sense of a stealth game. You know,
Right.
you would want to do some kind of ninja samurai thing.
I also guarantee you that the way things are these days, again, years and years ago, nobody bitched about Evie as the other protagonist. No, but as far as I'm aware, now
Yeah.
I wasn't online looking at stuff the way I am now for the podcast and all that stuff, so I was probably ignoring a lot of that shit anyway. But I feel like even if we had a Japanese guy and still had her as the other protagonist, people would have found a problem with her. Like, oh, it's got to be a woman. We had to add a woman to the
Yeah.
fucking game. And how many female ninjas in the history of the life? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, again, if you're looking at Assassin's Creed as your historical fucking accurate shit, like, yeah, you can point to the one time they took the crossbow out because it wasn't historically accurate. But if you ever played the game, even the one they took the crossbow out of, it wasn't historically accurate when they were fighting over a fucking legendary apple of Eden, and then
Yeah.
it turned into the staff, and then it turned into
Whatever the
hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Hip, whatever the fuck his name is.
Hippopotamus?
Staff, and yes, hippopotamus.
Gave him all the easy ones.
But like, and then it, you know, it preserves your life force forever, and then you hand that off, and then you die, and then so and so has
and
it.
now
She
we're in the
has it,
Greek
now-
gods, and now the Greek gods are the old gods before the new god. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's if this is like you said, what you're pulling from, guys. These guys jump from thousands of feet in the air into a haystack and survive.
Right.
I don't think legitimacy is really their main concern as far as what they're doing.
Right.
It's
They're
a
telling a
video game,
story.
guys.
If you don't like the story, that's okay. Like you could, if you just genuinely didn't like the game, I wouldn't care. Like
Yeah,
that
don't
never
like it.
bothers me.
That's
if you,
cool.
If you're like I went to go play it, or everything I saw, like I watched gameplay of it before I decided to buy it, because I've done that before. I've
Yeah.
watched gameplay of certain games to see if it was going to be something I wanted to do, and went, that's not for me. I just don't see myself enjoying it.
That's how I was
Although-
with Odyssey and Valhalla. I played Origins, was like, okay, this is okay for this one. I don't think I could continue to play Assassin's Creed like this.
Yeah.
And I did.
Right.
You know, I kept up with the
And that's-
story.
and
I
that's
picked
okay.
I picked
Yeah.
a Mirage up because they went back to the normal kind of Assassin's.
It was like a hybrid of
Yeah.
the old school style and new school
and
style.
and I enjoyed that and went, hey, this is what I want my Assassin's Creed games to be like. And I enjoyed
Right.
the hell out of that game. I know most people did. That's fine. I thought it was good. And your opinion that it isn't good is just as valid and cool. But if you don't like it, don't play it. Simple as that.
I'll tell you what I'm looking for at some point. I want more modern day stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I think
I
that's
would be-
I think that's you
When they
at some
started
point-
going like towards the, end of the 2 trilogy, where it was like the Ezio trilogy, and then they were doing with 3, and they were really like building up the modern day story
Yeah.
a lot. And then it just kind of disappeared for a while. Like, I mean, they kind of threw some stuff in with
they
4.
killed the main guy off. They had to make it disappear.
Right. So, and then with 4, you were just like some random like
Worker,
intern
yeah.
logging into like, and even that was cool. Like you're meeting all these people and doing this, and like, but I want to see that like, oh man, so and so's hunting these guys down again, and we're like
Yeah.
more modern day stuff. Like, I do think that would be cool.
And I think-
Even if you're not doing like current time, if you're doing something, the closest we got timeline wise was Syndicate with the Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
where they were starting to add like actual guns in, not like automatic
Well,
guns. or
isn't
anything
there?
like that.
Because I know we had this conversation because I found gameplay of it and was like, oh, this would be super cool. And there's like is it Syndicate that has like a flash forward to like World War
Unity.
II, or is it Unity?
I think it's Unity has a bit in it where you're like,
Like the planes dogfighting you as you're climbing
yeah,
up
you're
the
like
Eiffel
climbing the
Tower.
Eiffel Tower, but it's so it's you're playing as somebody else. I think I forget how it positioned it because it's been so long since I've played it and seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're in like World War II esque times with that, and like, but it's just like a quick thing. It's
Yeah.
not like a whole. It's like one mission of that little bit of gameplay, nothing outrageously crazy. But like even that would be cool.
Yeah,
Like
I
you
would
start
I would
getting a
love a
little.
World War II, or a World War
The,
One doing trench warfare and all that stuff.
the
Because
other
they
thing
they
that
kind of
does make
retconned
me
themselves with the guns. That was
yeah
the issue. Is like, oh, we can't really remember how to use guns, or I forget how it was they put it
right
when they did it. But I mean, you're at a point where you've done the Revolutionary War, which had muskets. Give it slower
yeah
than regular guns, but still guns nonetheless.
right
You know, I they're not superhuman. That's not the thing that I'm like,
no
oh, hey, like you can't do guns because they can't dodge. Well, no shit, they can't dodge bullets. The whole premise is for them to be in the shadows and
yep
strike without being noticed. That's the whole gimmick
right.
of what we're doing here.
Um, the other thing that does bother me, other than their pricing, um, is how they jump around.
Like
Like
timeline
we went
wise.
I was fine with doing like a soft reset with Origins to kind of like, oh, this is how it all really started, right? The
Yeah.
Brotherhood before blah 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 before they were called the Assassins and they were the hidden ones. Like I was cool with that. And then the next game we jumped even further back before. So like we're Assassin's Creed, but we're not even doing the Brotherhood or the hidden ones anymore. We're like the
It's a
but
different.
to the point, like I guess they're focusing on the fact that you're still fighting the uh order
Yeah.
slash
Templar slash whatever it
Templar,
is.
yeah, whatever they were called in the last like couple of games. Okay, and then we jumped up to Vikings,
Yeah. Which canonically
and
would have
then
been
we
before or would have been after Egypt as well.
yeah, and then we jumped slightly back to oh my god, what was his name?
Uh,
Mirage. What was his?
I just sat there and said I enjoyed the game. I don't even remember
I can't remember his name, but he was.
because it was set in like Middle
It was
Eastern.
yeah, but it was like right before Valhalla
Yeah,
because it's before he
leads up
turns.
to him in Valhalla.
Yeah,
Spoiler, sorry if you hadn't played. If you hadn't figured that out by now, I don't feel sorry for you. The game's been out long enough.
but like now we're jumping. So like before we were jumping ahead, and then we jumped back
I
like
mean,
3 to 4. We jumped back
yeah, I would say because it's
because we had
Kenway is his grandfather.
correct. So you're like, okay. Now don't get me wrong, 4 was still my favorite.
I actually had a buddy of
Um,
mine. We were talking about this yesterday, where he said 4 he thinks is canonically the worst one. And I go, you're gonna piss a lot of people off saying that. And I go, I don't. You're in a minuscule minority of people that think that.
yeah.
Unity is still to me the worst one as far as launch. I think it got a lot better once they actually fixed a lot of the stuff.
Well, if you look at it now, it is more praised because people kind of forgot about how shitty it was at launch.
Yeah,
It's probably that was the first Assassin's Creed game I did not buy immediately.
same.
Because I actually had people. I had a buddy who worked at GameStop at the time. I was like, "Don't get this," and I was like, "Bro, it's on sale for $20," and he's like, "Don't
Can't
get
play it.
And I was like, and that's what he said. He's like, "You can't even play it. Like, you're gonna spend $20 on nothing." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Um, and it wasn't until years later that I played it because it was finally like not buggy and glitchy. And
Yeah,
I think with a lot of things, time heals all wounds in that respect. And I do think at some point people will look back on some of these things that they shit on and go, no, it's actually a lot better than we remember it being. Like,
yeah,
and hey, listen, when some stuff launches shitty and finally gets fixed, what is it? No Man's Sky is a perfect example of that. Funny story about that. My wife was going to buy that game for me for Christmas one year. It had just come out. When did it come out? 2016?
Yeah.
So that Christmas she was gonna buy it for me, and I guess the people at the game store had told her the same thing they had told me with Unity, like, don't get it, it's like really shitty.
Back when
And she had
GameStop
told me
used to be
about it after
helpful.
the fact. Yeah. But like it was one of those where they like told her not to get it because it was so buggy, and like thank you to those people, whoever you are, that like saved my wife from making a terrible purchase. Although again, if I just waited 3 years to play the game, I would have enjoyed it. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, the discourse online this past week for that has been more so just anti Yasuke. He was a nobody, yada yada. We're embellishing history, bro. That's Assassin's Creed in a nutshell. We've been embellishing history since the first game. If the story's good, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Are we really that upset that like, yeah, could we have used a different person? Sure. Like, I again, if the game's good, I don't care who the characters are so long as they're written well and
Yeah.
it plays well. Now, I mean, listen, if it turns out to be shit, then it sucks. But I don't think it'll just automatically be shit because Sweet
Because
Baby
he's
ain't got
black.
their hands on this thing and fucking DEI's involved and all this other bullshit, and they got some like fat white chick writing the story for this game about Japan and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like,
I still wish, and I know it'll never happen because I guarantee that they've just shy away from it now with these game series. God, I want Assassin's Creed multiplayer back. I
that would be dope.
absolutely would love an Assassin's Creed multiplayer because it was such an underrated multiplayer that they actually kept up with pretty well.
Yeah.
I know it'll never happen because I think they're fully on board that the main focus is just making sure the game works, which I
Right.
get. And like I said, I'm not one to defend Ubisoft because Ubisoft
No.
does a lot of stupid shit and prices
Which
stuff.
sucks because I love most of their games.
Yeah,
I do. Like I've been a big Assassin's Creed fan for the longest time. Rainbow Six, less so lately, but Rainbow
Even
Six was a
Ghost
big game of
Recon.
mine.
I always love Ghost Recon.
Yep.
Uh,
Splinter Cell.
Splinter Cell. Which the fact that they still haven't made another one still blows my mind. I know I'm sure part of it's because their division's kind of taken over that Splinter Cell ish.
Yeah.
I would think to a degree.
Division's another one.
And I think Division got a lot of hate too. Inherently, I think got better with time. Although I am still sad that I guess they're like you said they decided to axe Heartland, which was going to be the free one that was I guess the mainly PvP, like always in the dark zone kind of thing.
Well, and that's another thing. So I will say, again, to discredit Ubisoft, Division was a game I was super pumped about. I remember seeing the original trailer for it and the like little gameplay stuff, and then it looked nothing like it, which again is a big criticism of theirs. The trailers and like gameplay usually look better in trailer than they do in game, and the graphics were clearly dumbed down when the game actually came out. So that is a legitimate criticism that they have, and I'm not I'm not defending them for that in any way because it is like you do pull the rug out from under people a lot with that kind of stuff. The I think the way they made it seem with how the Dark Zone was going to work was a lot different than how it actually worked. So I do get Ubisoft criticism.
Yeah.
We are in no way defenders of Ubisoft when they don't deserve it. I just think that because, and it's the same thing I said last week about like Sony. You already have a bad taste in your mouth about a company that anything they do, you're gonna find a reason to discredit or bitch. So like people already have a hatred for Ubisoft. And I'm not saying it's not justified for some of their practices. I'm not. But I think to sit here and turn around and just go, well, this game's going to be shit because of this. And it's like, yes, is some of the stuff that I've heard them like try to force certain things on? Yes. Am I for forced things when they don't need to be? No. But like that same company that's getting a lot of shit from everybody, that Sweet Baby Inc., has had their hands on certain things that has been universally praised.
But God of War one of them?
God of War Ragnarok was one of them.
Yeah.
Alan Wake was another one that
Great game.
I haven't played it, but Alan Wake 2, I mean, seems to be a generally universally praised game.
And unfortunately, studio got shut down.
Yeah, that's
So there, you know.
Imagine coming out with a potential game of the year candidate and then your studio gets shut down. Like that's crazy to me.
Putting
but
the
again,
eggs in the wrong baskets here. That's what we like to do.
We have to stop living in extremes. We really do. Like, two things can be true, and you can sit here and be like, "Oh, well, you know, I'll just play Ghost of Tsushima." Great, play Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
I think that's
what was the other one that
choice.
just came out recently? It was Rise of Ronin or whatever?
Something along the
something
lines of
Ronin.
that.
I know that much. I haven't heard a lot of
Rise of the Ronin.
Is
Yeah.
it okay? I haven't heard a
Now,
lot about that, but I've know.
People did shit on that a little bit because it does have like PS3 graphics.
Gotcha.
Like if you ever see like a clip of the horse riding, it looks really like PS2, PS3 ish.
Yeah.
But other than that, I heard the game was fantastic. I'm gonna wait to see when that goes on sale to maybe pick that up and fuck around with it.
Yeah.
Because it did look interesting. It did look good.
I'm a sucker for feudal Japan games, so I mean that's anything sword fighting or I'm besides like the Elder Scrolls companies, because I ain't got time to play shit that's gonna just make me hate my life for hours on end. Life's too short for me to hate what I'm playing.
Well, that's the other thing.
But yeah, I mean they've had a lot of controversy. Assassin's Creed, I think, has been a big one too. I mean, I think every one of their games in some degree has some kind of criticism. If it's not Siege,
sure.
it's Division, Assassin's Creed. I mean, hell, their Call of Duty Killer X Defiance been trying to come out for 2 years, and they keep pushing that off. And people are at a point
it's
where
been in development for like 6, 5, something like that. It was supposed to be the Call of Duty Killer, and then
it was supposed to come. And I've played it when they've done.
You play like a beta?
And it was great. Like, I'm excited for it, but at some point you got to capitalize on it. You can't just constantly be in this.
Imagine coming out with a beta 2 years ago and then doing
nothing with it. And I get there's unforeseen circumstances, but 6 years worth, we haven't figured this out. Like, either at this point,
again,
pull the plug on it, or
I'd rather them take their time than to rush it the way, say, Cyberpunk came out. Or No Man's Sky came out, or Assassin's Creed Unity came out. Like, any of these games that came out, and Starfield is not like it had all these bugs and issues. But
I'd rather I'm playing a beta.
I'd rather you take your time. Well, yeah, and that's
when you're dropping betas, that, in my opinion, that's you're at the finish.
You're close. Yeah,
even then, playing, like, I played that beta and I go, man, this is, for a beta, this is a very well polished game as is. Like, I would be content purchasing this game as is,
unless you do the 7 days to die route and just have 12 years of alpha.
But it's just, and Ubisoft kind of does the same thing that Bethesda does, where there's too much time in between, and you have to find that thin line of, we don't need it like Assassin's Creed did it for a while, where it was every year Assassin's Creed game came out. I don't need it every year. I'm fine you taking every 2-3 years.
Which they're doing right now too. Yeah, though. That's the only downside too. Like, they waited a year in between Valhalla and Mirage. Like, they had a 2-year gap for that. Yeah, 2 or 3. I think, I do think some of these games need to get spaced out better.
Like, 2 or 3 years for the Assassin's Creed, I think, is a good one.
I think Call of Duty's in the same boat though.
It is, and
I think that's one.
I'm not buying the next one. I can't.
Right, but I think that's one of the fairest criticisms about, again, I'm the guy that shits on Call of Duty every chance I get, but I do think that they would benefit. Now, obviously, it's a cash grab. I get it. That's their baby. Of course, that's where they're making all their money hand over fist. I do get that, but, like, from a consumer standpoint, we need to do better with, like, hey, man, we just don't want a new release every year because we want, especially, again, we talked about this many episodes ago, like, oh, it's going to be a 2-year game. Just kidding. We're coming out with a new one. And then and the problem is you guys all bought it, right? Like that's
Yep, hand over fist. I mean, in it.
if we can review bomb games on Steam to like show that we're not going to support some of these practices, we need to start doing that with everything else.
Yeah.
Like we had this conversation off recording about like I'm a sports guy. I love sports games. I've been playing basketball, football, and baseball games my whole life. I had to stop buying 2K and Madden games because they haven't changed anything. Nothing, it's just an increased roster with, NBA 2K might have a slightly different career mode story to it, but even then, like it has been less and less story based in the career mode lately, and it's just, I don't want to go to the gym every day and do the workout and do the this and do the that.
You gotta play the workout mini game.
I gotta play. Like I don't mind doing the workout mini games here and there, but like when you have to do it so much, and then all the microtransactions that 2K does is fucking irresponsible at this point. Like I had to stop supporting them.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I want to get NCAA, but in my mind I just know this is gonna be nothing but a Madden reskin with just college teams.
Right, and so I bought the last Madden game I had bought at one point was 15.
Yeah.
And then I didn't buy another one until I think like 19 or 20 or 21, whatever it was. And I got to tell you, felt the exact same with a new roster.
Yep.
Slightly increased graphics, and that's a big thing too. Like I feel like EA,
we're
when
at the
they
peak
cornered
of
the market.
Like as far as like sports games, I feel like we're as good as it's gonna get.
But the motions were all the same. The tackle motions were the same. The throwing motions were the same. I mean, shit. For a while, like if you were creating your guy for your career mode, like the faces were all the same they were the year before. Like nothing fucking changed.
Yeah.
Like features didn't change, and when we talk about wrestling and like for all of its faults, AEW being around is great for WWE because competition makes you better.
Yeah.
Right. NFL 2K5, arguably one of the best football games ever, made Madden be better because they introduced features and different gameplay styles and mechanics that Madden hadn't done, and Madden all of a sudden became a better game. If you look at, I think the most universally praised Madden game is either 05, 06, or 07. One in those 3-year ranges has been in, like, this was peak Madden.
Like
this was the best version of Madden.
One of those had the Titans as the cover, I feel like, because I feel like that was one that I had. There was Tennessee Titans. So I think it was the one they introduced Hit Stick.
I think 06 or 07. Yeah.
Because I remember that being the big feature of that game was that you could hit stick people and it was like a bigger hit that would you could make it fumble or
force fumble better. And like I remember, even if we're talking Madden games, you could do the QB vision.
Yeah.
Like you had to look, otherwise your pass was inaccurate. Like you had to make sure you were looking where you were throwing, otherwise it was gonna like.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, I remember that.
Throwing. Yeah, like they took that away.
Yeah.
Like silly things that you were like, okay, like we're gonna make this a little bit more realistic, and then it was like, okay, now it's just copy and paste with a new roster and maybe a new dance, whatever's in these days. We're doing the gritty last year, and we're doing something else next year. Yeah,
I think some of the issues, not everybody wants a like 1-for-1 simulation sports game. Like I miss the NFL blitzes. I miss the the NBA
MLB
Street, the NFL Street, the Slugfest, where it's like, hey, the point of this is it's a bit over the top.
Your arcade style.
Yeah, and I think that was, you could have it be both. You can have the NFL blitzes and the Maddens, and they'll both be good. Inherently, I think make each other better because you go, okay, we'll make the simulation as good as a simulation, but when I want to play blitz where I can fucking throat chop somebody after the ball's down, I can do that.
Yeah.
And they've shied away from just it. and this is my biggest complaint with, and it's not just like main sports games. This is my same complaint with like Tony Hawk, with SSX, with all of those kind of early 2000s over the top sports games. Is it became less about being fun and being more about being realistic. I don't always need it to be realistic.
Tony Hawk never really got into the super realism.
Well,
If you
I mean more
remember,
like Skate. Yeah,
Skate came out, which was a nice change of pace. Like, as somebody who used to skateboard,
Yeah.
it was cool to have that game as like this is a more realistic style. Like, when you're pulling off some of these tricks, it's almost like a little bit more gratifying at times, because it's not as like, I can just hold the X button and then I'm just kneeling down and I'm getting ready to ollie real high and everything, like
ollie.
right. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to, like, I don't just like push off once and then just hold X and then just run through the whole town. And like, yeah, I mean, listen, Tony Hawk Underground was still probably one of my favorite games ever. But it was a nice balance to have Skate.
Yeah.
What did I used to play baseball wise? Triple A, no, Triple Play Baseball, EA's baseball game, Triple Play Baseball, and then they started coming out with the MVP Baseball.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was. I knew there was another one, and I knew it was a three-letter one. I just couldn't remember what it was.
MVP Baseball 05, again, one of the arguably best baseball games ever. Something about 2005 just had like a lock on sports games.
See, I tell you, I still stand by my favorite, to this day, still my favorite baseball game was Ken Griffey Jr.'s Slug. Was it Slugfest?
Yeah.
For the N64.
I had Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Which was not great. But for a Super Nintendo based baseball game, it was pretty cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a Sega, it was World Series Baseball, I think it was 1992. And that's like the baseball game I grew up with.
Yeah.
And it was really cool for that. But you had your Triple Play Baseball, which was a little more arcade-ish and different things, and then you had your MVP Baseball, which is a little bit more realistic, and now we have MLB The Show,
which I inherently still think, out of all, which show's not 2K based, it's a separate company.
It's San Diego Studios.
It fucking shows. I think it shows. I think MLB has been one of the ones that consistently tries to adjust things and change, like actually make the game change. It's still not perfect. I'm not saying it checks all the boxes, but when you're comparing it to the NBA 2Ks and the Maddens, where it literally is just the same game, and that's fine. If you want it to be the same game, I'm cool with that. Then you don't need to start selling new copies every year.
Right.
And they're going to, and I get that's how you make money. I know there's somebody in the comment section, how they're going to make money. Shut the fuck up. I know that's how they make money.
Yeah.
I'm not an idiot. I'm simply making a critique of, hey, I as a consumer don't want to buy the same game. And I say this as a Call of Duty guy, but I'm at the point that I don't want to buy another one after this, because it has just been the same nonsense. And as someone that doesn't have a lot of time to constantly play stuff, I want to play stuff that's interesting and isn't just the same game I've played for the last 3 years.
Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes you have a comfort game that you can just put on and play when you're like, I want to just turn my brain off and play. And like, for me, sports games were kind of that to an extent. Like, I do like being able to just turn my brain off. Like right now, I'm alternating between MLB The Show and I'm finishing up Final Fantasy 16. Sometimes when I'm like, all right, man, I'm just tired and my brain doesn't want to think too much anymore. Like, I turn off Final Fantasy and I go back to MLB.
Yeah. Just start banging homers.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, man. My one guy's broken right now. Like, no cheat code required. I just.
But it's
I
bad.
got the right perks. I got the right card pulls. I got everything worked out. And I was like, all right, cool. Like,
it's bad when WWE 2K is the most innovative 2K game that's currently.
And that's
even then it has its own issues that people have been,
So I've yet to pick that up.
I haven't either. I've stayed away from it because I'm still hearing that it still has a lot of issues, and
it sucks because I want to play it. I want to get my wrestling fix in. I
yeah,
want to do these things, but
I'm not
I
dropping
just
$60
can't.
on something that doesn't work. Just
Or
$70 or whatever.
$120 to get all the DLC and the this and the that and the extra characters for the WrestleMania, the 40 years and blah blah blah. Like
Yeah,
that's so much nonsense added into things that we just don't need
well, that's the bad thing is
to
we
do.
had this price increase increase to $70, but the content's gotten less.
Yep.
You know, I used to buy PS2 games for $30 that have more content than some of the shit we buy now for $100.
I mean, we're both PC gamers as well, so like
You can find me a Lethal Company or find me a Helldivers or, you know,
how much did you pay for Phasmophobia?
$11, you know.
Right.
So I mean,
And
it's
how much
how many hours I get out of it, and
right.
which
The
is
last
nice. I hope that continues.
PC game
I
the
hope
last PC game I bought for like full price was Baldur's Gate. But again,
Helldivers.
that's another game I got. I have probably 250 hours in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm definitely getting my money's worth for a game that I paid full price for. But I mean, you look at all these like independent based games that like. That's why we keep saying like I'll wait for a sale for some of these games before I buy it because on like PlayStation or like your AAA games or whatever, like fucking $60-$70 for a game that's like not even complete half of the time, and
Yeah.
then you're waiting for stuff. And
Or I could
dude,
I could buy the $10 game that's 3 guys in a garage that make it, and they update it more consistently than the AAA game that has a team.
right, like
You know,
it's crazy. What game am I? What I'm thinking about a game right now that again has a very small team to it that's constantly putting up out updates. Hold on, I'll just look at my Steam library and tell you what I'm looking at in a second.
trying to think.
It's um, Lethal Company comes to mind. I know Baldur's Gate's constantly
Lethal
doing updates.
Company's
They're
issue
not
is they put out too many updates that modders can't
Yeah.
keep up with because there's so many of those mods that like require.
right.
And the second they and I know that's you're bitching that they're updating. I'm not bitching that he's updating the game. That's cool.
Yeah,
Update the game.
yeah.
Just maybe not as consistently that mods break every other week.
Phasmophobia is another one. Small studio.
And they're, I mean, that game's
constantly
still
updating stuff.
alive. I still think that's, to me, and as many clones as that game has spawned of that same, and given none of them I've played have been anywhere near as fun or good. Because one of my community mugs, she has sent me. We have played. There was a time, and this is funny. There was a time frame that she had recommended so many of these that we had bought that I had refunded within 2 hours.
Oh,
That Steam eventually emailed me and goes, "Hey, chill the fuck out.
yeah.
This process
Stop buying games.
isn't for you to buy and test games out." And I go,
Right.
I beg to differ. And basically told that if it keeps up, they're gonna start refusing my refunds.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, and it's. You'd want to because I miss the days where you could do betas and you could do demos where it's like, hey, I don't know if I'm into this game.
Right.
But
Yeah,
even I
get
think
a-
Phasma did a demo too, though, where you could play Phasma without fully buying it and seeing like what the
Yeah,
game
they had
was
like an open beta or something like that, or
Oh,
I mean, I don't get me wrong, they do a lot of that for like streamers nowadays, where like,
yeah,
oh,
we're
streamers
not
can
cool enough
test
to
it for
get on
free,
that
blah blah blah.
fucking group.
Well, I did see a thing where like even 7 days we could apply to get like the free weekend before.
I
the
tried for
launch
Marvel
and blah, blah,
Rivals. I
blah.
didn't make the cut. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean we're not popular enough,
Yeah.
which is whatever. And it doesn't help that I haven't streamed in 3 months, but that's besides the point.
I got off my fucking tangent. I got off my train of thought.
Yeah, we do that. We're not sticking to the rundown list at all.
Fuck it. Porto's not here to keep us in line.
I told you ahead of time we were just gonna fucking do it
Off the cuff.
Yeah.
Whatever we talk about's what we talk about. If we get to
Yeah,
everything,
fine.
we don't. No, I remember I wanted to circle back to is Call of Duty. I don't think would be as much of an issue as if they took the kind of the Destiny route, of, hey, this game's
Constant,
free.
like DLCs. Yeah.
And
Although that's its own fucking. Hey,
yeah,
listen, the game's free, but it'll cost you $300 worth of DLC to play all of the different things. And you're
yeah,
like,
and I think in the degree it needs to be less expensive. I do agree with that.
although,
'Cause my
depending on the frequency of how often they're coming out with the DLCs, I can understand to a point. Like, if you're looking at it right now, if you're just like a game like Destiny that's been out for years, and you're like, oh, for all of the DLC, it's going to cost me 100. What is it up to? Like 190,
something like
200,
that.
whatever.
Even then you can get it
I
on
remember
sale
at
pretty
one point
well.
it was. I remember at one point it was like 145 or something for like all the DLCs. This was, I think, maybe 2 or 3 DLCs ago. I don't
Yeah.
remember. So like if you're a first time, like you're playing for the first time, that can be fucking overwhelming as shit because you're like, dude,
Do
if
one
you
at
were
a
like a
time.
day one player, like my buddy Claude, Claude,
Yeah.
he's put like thousands of hours into that game where he was playing it like all the time when it came out, and so every time something new came out, yeah, spend the money on it because you've been playing the game for
Invested in it.
6 months to a year of this, and then the new DLC came out. So you're spending money on that. Okay, that's reasonable, right? Because it's the same idea of like, all right, we're just buying a new game every year, except these DLCs aren't $70 a pop.
Yeah. I can go, because that was like my joke with Call of Duty is, Call of Duty, everybody praised Call of Duty when they went from the paid DLC to, oh yeah, everything's free, we'll drop maps randomly through seasons and all that stuff. And I was getting 5-6 good maps of fucking DLC and getting 4 or 5 of them. Now I get a new map every 2 months, 3 months, depending on, I can't remember the season exactly to how many days it is.
Until October rolls around for their new DLC for that year for $70, and then
no, here's how I knew the 3 was the DLC is you're playing the campaign and most of the guns in the campaign are the ones from the one before. And I go, you're shitting me.
Yeah.
Like, we're not even fully rostering new guns in this. Like,
Nope.
it's gonna be just me, you, but here's the flip side of that is I like being able to use older game guns in the current game.
Right.
Because
That's
there's camos
fine.
that I get and there's that I grind for, that it's like, that was part of the reason I stopped doing camo grinds, is because, well, in a year it's not gonna fucking matter. I'm not gonna use any of these. Whereas, like, hey, I grinded out a cool zombie camo from Modern Warfare 2 that I use on everything I put for Modern Warfare 3 because it's a cool camo and I took the time to do that. I like that. And that's why I'm kind of thinking eventually, and I don't know if you've ever seen anything on it, but so China has a Call of Duty Online that is inherently, it's free, but you kind of can pay for like additions to it of what you want to play. And they update it quite a bit as far as adding guns, as adding characters, adding maps.
Right.
But I just miss buying the DLC packs where I got good maps out of them. Because my biggest annoyance, and this is from playing here recently, I've gotten back into playing like Search. All the new maps are just point of interest from Warzone.
Yeah.
It's not even new maps. It's just you're segmenting a part of the map from Warzone and putting it in multiplayer. Because I had one where it was it's literally the point of interest zoo from Warzone. And I go, this is lame. Like, this isn't even, I do this anytime I play Warzone. Why would I pay money for this?
Right.
That's
brutal.
Hell, one of them, and I because the picture doesn't do it justice, but it's what is it? It's called Outbreak is the map name. And the look of it, it kind of looks almost Last of Us ish. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's Terminal. It's the airport map Terminal, just with a different cosmetic aesthetic to it. That it's like a worn out post-apocalyptic airport.
Yeah, it just has some holes in this wall.
Yeah,
and
like it's a little foggy out. And
it's like Halloween. It's like the Halloween update before they fix it after like November or whatever. Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't. This isn't a new map. You're just reskinning a map.
It's like when Among Us did the Halloween and Christmas updates, and they just had different like decorations around
Yeah.
the ship or whatever, or like Phasmophobia does the Halloween update for different things, and then that's really it, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, like that's
But
nothing.
all right, well, that's our game rate. Let's get into
Yeah,
let's get in some wrestling stuff for
the
the
wrestling.
people that come here for the wrestling.
The wrestling.
Which shit show do you want to go with first? Is there's do we want to just immediately go for the Cody, or do we want to do the Tiffany shit? Do we want to do?
Let's start with the Tiffany thing. I feel
Okay.
like that's something.
Well, it's all right. So it's Tiffy time. Let's
It is Tiffany time.
I'll let you, because you know this story a little bit better than I do, and you can kind of explain it, I guess, for anybody that doesn't know.
So yeah, if anybody didn't catch what happened this week, Tiffany Straton uploaded basically a fan edited video to X. It is now officially X. They did get rid of the Twitter.com.
Don't want to say Twitter.
Yeah, it just kind of like I have to force myself to say
Fuck
X.
you,
But
Elon.
yeah, nudes in bio. Anyway, so essentially she uploaded a video of like her like knocking Jade off of the apron, and I think I can't remember if she also hit Bianca, but if you just look at the video and like if you scroll Twitter the way I scroll Twitter, which is mostly with the sound off, you don't think anything of it.
Just so you don't come across
right, because you never know, right? And like some stuff is just like ear rape, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like some stuff is just obnoxiously loud, and you're not prepared for it. So I watched that video, thought nothing of it. Then I come to find out there's audio to it, and I think at first people thought it was her saying it, which it's clearly not. And anybody who's being realistic knows that it was like a dubbed over thing. So as she's hitting Jade, the audio says something along the line. I think it's like, "Come here, you black bitch," or something like that. I think that's the. Anyway, it had black bitch in it before she hits her.
Yeah.
And then there's like a smacking sound. So like you can clearly tell that this is like a dubbed over, like edited video of some, like they used audio from something and like added it to that video. So she uploaded that to her own, like from her own page. And I don't know if she watched the video the same way I watched the video the first time. And I did see, I don't know if I sent it to you, but I saw a funny TikTok and it's like POV of you like watching the Tiffany Stratton video without the sound and going, I don't understand why everybody's so mad. Like, I don't, she's just doing really great heel work. Like, what's the problem? And then it's like, oh, there's audio. Oh, well, oh, like that kind of thing. She has deleted the video. Like, she deleted it off. Now, I'm assuming I would like to hope that she didn't knowingly post that, knowing that that audio was there.
Yeah.
Obviously, if she did post that knowing the audio is there, somebody needs to pull her aside and have a conversation with her. Now, we can go back and forth with how that comes across, because if it was the other way around and somebody posted audio of like, "Come here, you white bitch," I don't think anybody would have the same uproar about it. But again, you still have to think of these things. People,
never know what somebody's going to get upset about.
Right. Not that you need to live your life based off of not upsetting other people, but there are things that you should just not do because it's stupid.
Yeah.
And this was a stupid thing that I'm sure she had no malicious intent of. And then, of course, like things got out. And again, I think I made the comment earlier. I don't know if I said it while we were recording for the podcast, but media these days, and it's media in general. It's not just gaming media. It's not just, wrestling media. It's not just, it's your mainstream media and your whatever. We focus so much on getting it out first that we don't worry about getting it right. And there are things that came out that said she had a ton of backstage heat and she was going to get reprimanded. And then, like, 2 days later, they were like, oh, no, nobody has a problem with her. Like, Jade doesn't have a problem with her. Bianca doesn't have a problem with her. Like, agents and whoever backstage is not, like, sour on her. They're actually pretty high on her.
Yeah. I mean, shit. I mean, she's getting pushed like every week. So, I mean,
yeah. And listen, for everything we've said, you can go back to all of our episodes. We have been fans of her because her in-ring work is solid. Her character work is mostly good. She's been a general enjoyment to the product. Not for the joking reasons of what a lot of people will say online, like, oh, it's stiffy time and all this other stuff. Like, she has a great in-ring work. She does have one of the best moonsaults I've ever seen.
yeah.
Like, I enjoy watching her matches because I enjoy her character. So that came out. That was debunked that she had a lot of backstage heat. That's not the case. But yeah, just a stupid moment of something that Hey, listen. Even if you didn't listen to the audio, just fucking check it before you upload it to your own page. It's one thing if somebody else posts that on their page and then you're just like, oh, that's kind of funny, and then you hear the audio and go, never mind, it's not that funny. Like, you gotta just especially when you're in that kind of position, you gotta pay attention to those things. That's all. Like, you did a stupid fucking thing.
I didn't see where people bitched about her deleting it. Like, it just makes her guilty. I go, okay, guys, if she didn't delete it, she's the bad guy. If she did delete it, she's the bad guy.
Right.
Yeah, come on.
Damned if you do.
Let's pick something to be upset about. And like, I'm like you. I hope it wasn't a malicious intent. I mean, I would figure if it was, there'd have been some kind of reprimand by now. But I think in the quickness that it was handled, it was very much oh, hey, I didn't realize that's that was in that, or something along
it's
that
mostly
lines.
a non-story. There, again, she made a stupid mistake. She corrected that mistake. People will hold on to this forever.
It was a slow
and
week.
she'll do something else, and she'll do something else and then be like, see, I always knew this bitch was racist.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be one of those fucking things. I bit my tongue.
Did that earlier. I'm trying to my right
I
side.
like hit the thigh, and I think that's why I'm like having a moment.
Speaking of another outrage I saw, and I don't know if this came across your social medias at all, people were not or at least people on my side of the internet were not happy about Uso beating Dragon.
No, most people aren't, and
I get it. It made sense to me.
So
that's not a fight you want for free.
You could go either way. I do think the same reason, like, okay, so like people are bitching. I'll just use this. It's not quite the same extent, but I understand why they did it the way they did it. Jade technically lost to Nia Jax via DQ. Neither of them took a pinfall, but you don't want to have Jade versus Bianca because they're definitely going to save that for something down the line.
Yeah.
Fine. Dragunov and Gunther has been teased, and everybody was going, oh my God, I can't wait for this. And yeah, on free TV, would it have been amazing? Yes. Does that mean they'll never wrestle on Raw ever? No.
But they're also, I mean, Dragunov did just come over. If we're gonna do that, let's let him, let him work for some other people, not somebody that he's worked with.
For all of his, in-ring work faults, to where, listen, is he the best worker? No. But is Jey Uso over as shit? Yeah, dude. Like, guy's selling a ton of merch. Like, it's not the wrong call. I understand why people are upset. I do. I fully get it, because I am very high on Dragunov. I would have loved to have seen that match at the time of this recording tomorrow.
Yeah.
Technically today it's 1:30 in the morning, but I would love to see that match. I mean, listen, when I'm telling people who haven't like watched as much wrestling as I have, and not that I watch as much wrestling as like some of these fucking weirdos.
Davis.
But like when I'm telling people like there is a match you have to watch, like I need you to watch this match, but like I want to watch it with you to see how you react to watching this match. It
Yeah.
is the Ilya Dragunov Walter match from NXT UK back in 2020 when there's no fans in the arena and you hear every slap and every chop and every fucking thing because that match is just brutal. It is horrifically beautifully violent. Like it is a sight to be seen. And I tell people like you have to watch this match. Um so yes, I would love to see them run it back. I think they're going to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, you can see after the fact of like they had that little backstage thing, they're going to run it back at some point for even if it's not for a title, they're just going to run that back at some point. And I am here for it.
I am still curious who they're gonna have win. So is it Gunther versus Jay tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's we're kind of all over, but for your update it's Gunther and Jey Uso, and then it's Tama Tonga and
Orton.
Randy Orton. So they're likely either going to do Orton and Gunther or Jay and Tama to set up the bloodline thing maybe.
I still
don't
think it's
know.
too early for the bloodline thing.
Right.
I put more that it's gonna be Orton Gunther.
That makes more sense. You can still do the bloodline thing without King of
Him
the
winning,
Ring like
yeah.
stuff. And I can't see I can't see an outcome of Gunther not winning King of the Ring.
I could, but I think it's minimum. I don't think. I think
It's not impossible, but it's not
because I think isn't
it's
King
not
of the Ring the
likely.
only thing Orton hasn't accomplished?
Potentially, but
So I mean, I could see that being a
does he need to?
I don't
He
think
doesn't
Gunther
need
needs it
to.
either. That's kind of my thing. Is like I don't think really either of them. Like I think Gunther's over
No,
right
because
now.
I mean, realistically, he could have dropped the Intercontinental title and immediately feuded for the World Heavyweight title, and
Yeah.
nobody would have batted an eye. And even
Um.
if he won the World Heavyweight title, the next like opportunity, nobody would have batted an eye.
Yeah.
Everybody would have been like, "Yep, that makes sense." Like he pretty much handed off the IC title because he needs to move up the card, and he was such a good Intercontinental champion that him being a World Heavyweight champion just makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't. I think you pin that against them. I could see a world where Orton gets it as kind of the cherry on top to his career, that he's accomplished
Yeah.
everything. Because I'll be honest, I don't think Orton's gonna be here much longer. I think maybe 2 years.
No.
I think Orton's out.
But,
If that, depending on injury.
yeah.
And not to say that I want him out, but I mean the guy's been doing this for a long time, and it's about that time for him to move into the sunset and do other things.
Right.
So I could see him winning. I don't think it would hurt Gunther for him to lose to Orton, especially depending on how they do it.
Well, Orton of all people, I mean, that's
That's like the top of the top kind of thing. So I mean,
right. So
and I don't think Gunther losing that affects his push.
losing to a 14-time
Yeah,
champion at this
14.
point, losing to a 14-time world champion, first ballot Hall of Famer, blah 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 blah, accomplished pretty much everything you can accomplish in the business. Yeah, losing to him is not exactly like, oh, they're gonna bury Gunther now. Like,
I do think him losing to Jay is the wrong. I don't think
he will. He will.
and I don't think he will. I hope that's.
But like, they're not burying Ilya Dragunov because he lost to Jey
Yeah.
Uso. They're just not.
I don't think. I think a loss to Jay from Gunther would affect Gunther more than Ilya losing to Jay.
Right. Well, for the casual audience, Ilya's only been around for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I still think they're gonna push the holy hell out of him at some point.
Yeah. No, I could see him being the next Intercontinental run.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not going to give Gable it, which I assume they're going to, the way they're pushing him. That at some point he's going to.
I would hope so. They should have. I mean, they should have capitalized on it.
Yeah, because I don't feel like they've done shit. And I like Sami Zayn. I don't feel like they've done shit with Sami Zayn since he's won the title. Besides, I mean, Yeah, like
It's
Gable
been the
went
classic
heel,
of
but
like it's always the classic of like winning the title is awesome and then retaining and like what are you doing with the title has always been like the biggest where they kind of drop the ball in that
yeah.
sense. The only person who I think is being booked, and again, we might have different opinions on this, especially after like how the promo went last week. The only person I'm seeing that's really like been booked better since winning is Priest.
Oh, I agree. No, I inherently
Um,
agree.
they're giving him more natural personality. They're giving him more to do. I mean, I said I think last week like the him leading up to cashing in, we can all say, "Oh, he's an idiot for not doing it," and da 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 da. But like logically, it made sense to do it the way he did it.
Yeah.
Um, but also like he was the guy winning the tag matches when Judgment Day was winning. He was the guy like, oh, he's the Punisher of Judgment Day because it's a play on his independent name, Punishment Martinez.
Yeah.
Um, like he was booked strong before he won the title, and he's being still booked strongly for the most part. And again, this promo with McIntyre kind of helped with that.
Yeah.
Especially the role McIntyre has been on. He could have easily
Buried him.
like left Priest in the dust, and he didn't. And I think part of that is credit to Drew because he is having a fantastic run with the heel work that he's doing and the
Especially him and his punk stuff and
right. I mean, two injured guys having a feud is surprisingly doing amazingly.
yeah.
Like if you told me
Not
if
a
you told me
single bit of
5 years
wrestling.
ago, right? If you told me 5, 6 years ago that two injured guys were gonna have a hell of a feud and it was gonna be one of the most entertaining things you were gonna see,
And they were
I'd
gonna
have told you were
and
nuts.
they weren't gonna wrestle a single match.
Especially pre COVID WWE, like even pre again we for all of AEW's faults pre AEW WWE, like when they were just Vince was booking shitty shit all the time and it was just like okay, like this doesn't make sense. Hey, remember when Mustafa Ali was going to win the Money in the Bank and at the last minute Brock Lesnar came out in a match that he wasn't supposed to be in and just won the Money in the Bank because rising superstar Brock Lesnar really needed that rub. Like
Yeah, I mean, same with the Undertaker thing. I still think that's one of the biggest wastes was having.
I mean, the run Brock had was incredible after he beat the Undertaker, but it was Brock. Like
Yeah,
he wasn't really the guy that needed it. If you were talking years ago, Orton made sense to be the guy, but I mean, if you look at the way Orton's career has gone,
didn't
he
need it.
didn't need it. You could have said
Edge
the
didn't
same
need
thing
it.
like years ago about like Roman.
Yeah,
You know, if they were gonna beat Taker and then turn him heel the way they kind of teased it when he did beat Taker, when they were like telling him to go fuck himself the night after WrestleMania, and all he said was, "This is my yard now." Like if he would have just became a heel at that point,
yeah.
and
There's
he hadn't been beat by Brock at that point, like that would have been great. Or when he wrestled Bray and had Bray win over him, like that. Like there are a few people that could have taken that victory that it would have meant more than Brock.
yeah.
Um,
And he even
so
says something similar because I've seen interviews with him where he had said Roman at one point. He had said
yeah,
Bray. Guys that were almost there but needed like one more something to kind of
right.
push them into the seriousness of the talent aspect. Yeah,
So
I've never been a Brock Lesnar fan in any iteration of WWE. I've always because he's always needed Paul Heyman to do talking for him. I will say he was a bit entertaining towards the end of his kind of Cody and where he was just he was off the cuff doing his own thing.
yeah.
But inherently I've never been crazy about Brock Lesnar. Um, but yeah, no, it's could go either way as far as the pushing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think everybody needs to riot over Dragunov. I think Dragunov's going to be just fine. I'm intrigued to see where he goes from here. But again, so what were you going to do? You were going to have them wrestle next week, and then he loses anyway next week. So, okay, he's losing to Gunther over Jey Uso. But again, let's remember, Jey Uso is really over. Like, really popular. Yeah, is his in-ring work as solid as some of these other guys that are super over? No. But it's not, it's the one thing I wish we would stop. Yes, we are getting more and more guys that have better in-ring work, but like, even a guy like LA Knight who has a more traditional style and doesn't have like the new school style of like work. Oh, he's not that great in the ring. No, he's fine in the ring.
He's okay. But he's a good storyteller.
You're right, the charisma that he has, and again, he's another one he just lost, due to some shenanigans to Tamatanga, and but then he had that backstage thing with Carmelo Hayes. So again, like
Carmelo's
it's a
just
guy that
pissing everybody off, bro.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. I still think he's going to be the guy that takes the U.S. title from Logan Paul.
Oh, LA Knight or
LA Knight.
okay.
Yeah. I do think the whole Yeet thing kind of ruined Jay a little bit. Like I feel, if you remember him just like passionate, just worked up, like fired up, and going against Roman and all this stuff, like that Jay was awesome.
Yeah.
This Jay is more of a parody of himself, but he's still cool.
Yeah.
I just wish
I do like his ring attire. I like, especially last. I was like, yeah, I like the look they're going with. But no, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I did think the Yeeter of Worlds thing was a bit, and I'm getting offended for somebody else, and that's, but like I was kind of like, I don't know if that's the best taste there.
Yeah.
And I think I saw where his wife gave like a seal of approval on it, and that's fine. If that's, it's a personal thing, not so much me trying to defend her of, hey, you shouldn't do that. I just kind of went like, was that really needed? Did we really need to do that?
Well, it was more so in response to somebody saying something to him. It's not like he just came out
I
and
guess
was
it's
like,
true.
unprovoked, like, oh, the Fireflies are mine now. Somebody was like, oh, how do we feel about the Fireflies being a part of Jay's entrance? Which didn't really make sense because it's not like the lights are completely off the same way. Like, it's just phone flashlights. And yes, is it Fireflies when it's Bray's entrance with the lights completely out and everybody waving them around and stuff? Yes, I do understand that. It's technically the same thing, but it's a different atmosphere. It's a different thing. And again, I don't have a problem with the Yeet thing, but the fact that it's like become a comedy bit more than just like something he says.
I do hate it when they do it while he's doing the punches in the ring. I hate that.
Yeah.
Where it's become the this generation's what.
Well, the fact that we're still doing what chants in 2024 is.
Say what if you think this guy's a shit champion?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy hasn't wrestled in. Well, I guess he did wrestle in a WrestleMania relatively recently.
Yeah.
But let's see here. Just looking at my notes. Is Carlito gonna be part of Judgment Day? Yeah,
I saw a thing. Trying to think. They've been teasing, so they're obviously teasing Dissension with Judgment Day. I did see a thing again. You have your Twitter detectives and shit. So it was funny because it came through really well because there was that Jey Uso backstage thing where Liv walks out of a room and it's like off, like far in the distance. Liv walks out of a room and like 10 seconds later, Dominic walks out of the room. And you're like, oh shit, something's happening. And then you had that photo of like there's like a purple bandana sticking out of her pocket kind of thing. But the thing I just saw that like, conspiracy theory is Finn Balor hasn't had his bandana for a couple of weeks now, and they're like, "Ooh, I wonder if that's going
That's
to
the
be a thing
bandana.
instead." And like it's his bandana and not Dom's bandana and all this other stuff. But I mean, they're clearly at some point Priest is breaking off from them
Because right
sooner
now,
rather than later.
was it shit? McDonough and Balor are the number one contenders currently.
Yeah,
Which I thought was
and Dom is hurt-ish.
ish.
Yeah.
How did
He didn't get the Tommy John surgery that they said he got, and then all this other nonsense.
How did he get injured? I don't even remember.
Was it don't remember. I actually don't know.
I remember seeing him post a picture of like he didn't need the surgery, but then he was injured, and I go, oh, I must have missed something.
A couple of people got the injury bug at the moment. You were saying Ivar got the injury bug because he's been doing some pretty decent stuff down in NXT.
It was weird.
I mean, obviously Drew and yeah,
we're watching that together, and I go, who the fuck's the guy in the plain clothes?
Yeah,
it's Ivar.
It's Ivar. Yeah.
What?
Who else got bit by the injury bug? It's somebody else.
Asuka.
Yeah, Asuka's dealing with injuries
Lashley.
right now. Yeah.
Man, it is really quite a bit this time of year where everybody getting injured.
Yeah, I mean, even AEW's got some people that are injury ridden and stuff. And then I just saw another thing with Danielson talking about he's got like some nerve things that have been bothering him, and I'm like, I just want you to be healthy.
Yeah.
Like I really do. And I'm so happy that you're passionate and that you want to do it and you want to wrestle every week, and like I completely get it. But man, I just want you to be okay. I don't want you to be like I don't want you to be like a shell of a human being in the next bunch of years because you just gave too much.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the fans will just stop appreciating you if you like dialed it back a little and didn't wrestle as often.
Yeah.
Again, I know that's not how he's wired. I get that, but you know, you just again, it's the old man in me that I'm like, man, I just want this dude to be okay. Like, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, wrestle and fucking land on your head every day. I don't care. Like now I'm like,
to the death.
Like I get that feeling when I see guys like drop a certain way, and I'm like, ooh, you know, like I tense up for them.
Anytime we've watched pay-per-views together where it's like there's a bad spill.
Yeah. It's rough. Again, we talked about that Danielson Osprey spot where he like started to like make it seem like he really wasn't okay in his neck and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, like it just takes you out of it because you're like,
great match
just
ruined because somebody.
I just want the dude to be able to walk. Like I don't want him to like not be able to do stuff. I did see. It was I gotta find it. I couldn't find it on YouTube for some reason, but it was Danielson, and I could have sworn it was Moxley. I know like a week and a half ago it was Danielson and Claudio that wrestled Top Flight, which is Dante and the Martin brothers.
Yeah.
And it was funny, like a little bit of the outside, like there was this like super kick that didn't quite land well, and this like suicide dive that didn't quite land well. But then there was this really cool spot where one of the Martin brothers got into the ring, did this like reverse, threw Danielson back into the ropes, and he rebounded with the knee, and like that knee looked like it took him the fuck out. And I was like, that was a cool spot. That last like 20 seconds of spot, like there was a lot of like goofy, like didn't quite hit right, like it didn't look like it landed all that well, and then all of a sudden they did this spot, and I was like, ooh, that was a fucking dope spot. Like they really finished it off well.
Yeah.
Where it like kind of looked like it was struggling. I'll send it to you when I find it, but it was a really dope spot. I just need to.
Well, I think the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up, because we're about to hit our mark here.
Yeah, we went wrestling light this week. Look at us.
Which is a rarity. How do you feel about the new stipulation with the Logan Paul Cody Rhodes? Does it make you more annoyed or less annoyed?
Well, I don't want to see Cody with both belts.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that part of it. But like, I just don't. I don't care enough for this story.
And it's solely a Saudi
I think
Arabia
it'll be a.
story. It's
I
the
think it'll
whole.
be a good. Yeah, and that's the problem. I think it'll be a good match, but I just don't. I just don't care.
I'm having trouble being invested in it because
I just
I don't believe Cody loses.
Well, we know he's not gonna lose.
Yeah,
He's not gonna lose the title to Logan Paul. That's just not gonna happen. Um, and I just don't. I don't care for it.
I did like
don't-
his little nod to Tyson.
Yeah.
Your brother's gonna get knocked out in 8 days. Oh, speaking of which, because it made me think of that. I don't know if you've kept up with the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson stuff at all. They had a press conference, and God, man, the cojones on this fucking guy. So he gets up there and asks Jake Paul. He goes, "So you've fought in all these people. You've commented that you want to be in the actual boxing league. When are you gonna stop fighting gimmick fights and actually fight a boxer?"
Right.
And he goes, "Are you calling Mike Tyson a gimmick fight or a gimmick fighter?" I go, "Well, I mean, he's like 50, dude. So yeah, like in this scenario, he is." And like Tyson gets pissed. What do you call me? What are you calling me? It's like it's oh my god. But it's true though.
Right.
This guy hasn't fought anybody but retirees at the fucking nursing home. And fight an actual I've
Well,
made
like
boxing
he's retired. He's fought retired MMA guys, and like that's really been and the one actual boxer he fought he lost to.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean I understand he's trying to put on a. I also realized that by the way that match I was talking about was from like a year ago, so never mind. I just saw the clip like recently, and I knew Danielson and Claudio had just wrestled those guys, and I thought that they had wrestled this week again
Yeah.
with Moxley, but it's a match from a year ago, so I'm not even going through that by the way. But yeah, no, I just I know he's talking a bunch of shit because he's supposed to, and it's to sell the fight, and I do get that, and I do think that they're laughing and shit behind closed doors, and it's all
Heyday.
promo for them and stuff. Like I do understand it, but yeah, it's one of those things where like you already don't like the guy, so then when you hear him say things like he's better than Buster Douglas was, and like I'm a better fighter than like all of these, and you're like,
I brought more relevancy to boxing than it's like, oh god, no. People just want to see you get the shit kicked out of you. That's all it is.
right.
All right, well, that's all I got on my notes. Is there anything in closing?
Yeah, I mean, wrestling wise, the only other thing I did want
Toni
to touch
Storm, that
on.
was the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're in the Toni Storm conundrum dilemma of sorts. Just in the sense that she's a heel that gets cheered,
A lot.
but she does like heelish things, but she's also the baby face. Like it's depending on who she's wrestling, which is also confusing because if one week she's the heel, you would expect next week her to still be the heel, but then she's the face the next week, and like it's tough because and I like Toni Storm. So it's not a critique on Toni Storm herself. It's just the character is very heel based, but it's like you enjoy her character, so you're cheering her
Yeah.
to the point where she's wrestling Serena Deeb, and nobody cares. And you know, for all of the AEW fans that are like, yeah, Serena Deeb, she's a great in ring worker and all this stuff, and she's a good in ring worker, but nobody cares.
Yeah.
She's telling a sob story in a promo. Nobody cares. She's basically the she's doing babyface things with like again, her sob story, her life story, this and that, and everybody's cheering for Toni even though she's the heel, and then it does kind of devalue. Like if she's gonna be a baby face, you're basically devaluing your other baby faces like on the female roster. So it's hard because she clearly has the best character work, at least in the women's division, if not in that entire company.
Yeah.
So I mean, everything she does is quotable and entertaining and hilarious. And, I just wish there was more consistency with, they're not going to boo her, right? Like, who's booing Tony Storm?
Yeah.
Nobody. So if you're going to go full fledged babyface, make her wrestle pretty much just heels. Like, and you can do all of that and have the heels do just be the fodder for her, because at this point, no, I don't think anybody thinks Serena Deeb is a legitimate challenger to Tony Storm's title. No, but the same way we don't think Logan Paul's beating Cody Rhodes for the title, we don't think that Serena Deeb is beating Tony Storm.
Yeah.
You can sit here and say if Drew and Priest were about to have a match for the world title, there is some intrigue there because you do think that Drew can walk away with the title regardless of how early it is that Priest won the title.
Yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
Like there's some intrigue there. Same thing with the Intercontinental title. Do I inherently think that Sammy's going to lose? No, but is there a really good chance that it's Gable? Yeah, probably. The next person Logan wrestles for the US title, which I'm assuming is probably, hopefully, going to be LA Knight. You kind of figure that there's a good chance he's going to lose, but if he doesn't, you're kind of surprised. Just like we were surprised, like he won at WrestleMania. He retained at WrestleMania.
Still
We
blows
were like,
my mind.
didn't fucking see that coming.
Yeah.
Would have thought it would have been Owens or Orton. Like, again, those two guys in the match, like you figured it was going to be them. So yeah, it's just they have her in a weird spot. That I'm hoping they can fix, because obviously her character work is great, her in-ring work is fine, mostly good. Steel plate on the butt cheek aside from, was it All In that
Yeah.
she was having that issue, like that aside, everything else has been really good. So yeah, I just want them to fix that. That's my only like big critique of theirs.
That's
this
fair.
week.
I mean, I
Dynamite was a solid show. They put on a lot of good matches. Some of it was predictable. Okada versus Dax. You knew Okada was going to win. Like, nobody thought Dax was going to beat Okada for the Continental title. Like, they're doing like a bounty hunter, not bounty hunter, but like, yeah, basically like I put a bounty on Danielson. Like I'm trying to do all this stuff. They're doing that kind of storyline. That's all fine. You can say whatever you want to. I still don't care for the Bucks. Okada and even Jack Perry's been at least entertaining, but like, I just don't care for the Bucks. I had something else, but I lost it. It's fine. It'll come back to me eventually. After we're done.
Yeah, probably. It'd be 2 in the morning, like 3 in the morning.
Yeah. It'll be like 10 minutes after we're done, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah,
that was no problem."
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I do believe as we're gonna wrap it up for the night. As always, we are your hosts, Onyx and Olas. KJ once again out sick this week. I think the plan is to be back next week. We will see with it being Memorial Weekend. Who knows what plans will be.
I know for a fact I won't.
Yeah,
be
Olas
here,
will fact not be here, so it might just be me and KJ next week, or it might be nothing at all, and you'll get a middle finger because that's life. But from all of us, we will see you guys on the other side of the ring. Good night.
Fuck off.